Boom, boom, boom. Give everybody just a second. Come on into the stream as I adjust my microphone here. And away we go. Almost green check marks across the board.
Almost
Here
there.
on this Wednesday night as we sit April 9th. The draft is creeping up. Thomas Hall, we are just a couple weeks away. I know it's a football show and we love to get into entertainment and all kinds of pop culture here in the off season, but I got to start off with this. Welcome to MHI. It's Wednesday night. He's Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. Tom, I don't know if you saw this. You've been busy, right? The Mile High City's a little bit on fire right now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the Denver Nuggets firing Michael Malone, head coach, championship winning coach of the Denver Nuggets from a couple years ago. Yeah, 2 weeks to go, right? Playoffs right around the corner, and head coach is out of here. People are like, man, we thought we were secure. We're getting ready to go in with another MVP candidate, Nikola Jokic. Broncos country's ready for the draft 2 weeks away. Nuggets are looking for a head coach. How about that?
Yeah, I stopped watching, but I used to be a big basketball fan, but I kind of stopped watching in the 2000s and I never have gotten back into it. So It's not a big deal, but I did see it. And it's crazy that, it's this close to the playoffs and they axed both their GM and coach. That was interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm wrong. Dylan might know this one. Dylan Von Arx, one half of OBV, rocking with us on the ones and twos. Was Michael Malone the longest tenured coach in the Mile High City? I want to say he was. I don't know what the deal is with the hockey guy for the Avs right now, but I digress. It's Wednesday night. He's Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. David Yonkin rocking with us early and often. We appreciate you, David, saying good evening, everybody. Stir Fry came in to party. It's an NFL draft party. We're going to be getting into that here in just a little bit, asking the question, is Sean Payton targeting a first-round wide receiver? One Broncos insider thinks so. We're going to dive into that and more. We're also going to get to some news of the week. There's a new Broncos safety that just came to Denver. We'll let you know who that was and where he came from. And then the Broncos re-signed one of their own. We'll get into that as well. Let's say hello to some of the folks in the chat. What's up, Ernie? I see you being ornery in the chat there. Just watch yourself, bud. MLB Test Prep is also here to party. Shiloh, another good friend of the show, saying, man, I'd be happy with a running back, D-line, tight end, wide out, linebacker, O-line, damn near anybody. The Broncos need to make sure they hit. Look, the Broncos have tons of positions of need. Shiloh is exactly right. It feels like running backs at the top, but then out of nowhere, 9 News Insider, friend of Mile High Huddle, Mike Kliss, throws out a bombshell tweet over on X about 10 hours ago. Quote, besides running back, the Broncos must be considering wide receivers for their number 20 pick. They're scheduled to meet with speedy Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden today on 30 visit per source. Golden is making the rounds. After 2 years at Houston, Golden had 58, 987, 9 tutties are his stats. 58 receptions, 987 yards, and 9 tutties for Texas last year. What do you think, Shiloh? What do you think, Broncos country? I think the timing of this is very odd. Tom, Dylan, and I were talking about it before the show started. Sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. Not necessarily in April, though, Tom.
Yeah, it's an interesting timing for it, for sure. Like, is it one of those things where Sean Payton's just throwing something out there to throw people off? Is he really interested? I know that a lot of the visits that they had last year, they didn't draft really anybody from it that I remember. So you never know what he's trying to play at. But the fact remains, they do need to pick up a wide receiver. They need to get a good wide receiver who can step in, because Cortland Sutton's not going to be around forever, and some of these young guys are still unproven. So I think it's a high priority to get a wide receiver in this draft.
Boom. Mike Thompson reacting to the Michael Malone Denver Nuggets looking for a new head coach, right, as they're ready to enter the playoffs. And You guys are right in the comment section. Tom and I have talked about it. Dylan and I have talked about it. The basketball is different than it was, right? I was getting ready to have an old man moment and call it the basketball. The basketball is different these days than the basketball in our days. I grew up in the 90s, probably the greatest time to grow up as a sports fan or just a kid in general, right? So 90s basketball to me will always be different than these threes and the flop games that we see now. But it's crazy, man. And you're going to see some Denver Broncos here at Nuggets playoffs games. We saw it last year with Bo, right? And Cortland Sutton and some of these guys. You see Sean Payton sitting there in Jays, right? The only head coach with the J deal, I believe. So that's exciting. And we're just trying to make sense of the news or rumor, or I don't know. I guess you could call it a report, considering the Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden visited the Broncos today. There is some interest there. Talk to me about this, Cat, because it seems to me, Tom, we've got a million of these guys, and I'm talking about the 5'11", 190 pounders. Like, you got a lot of speedsters when you're talking about Mims, when you're talking about McLaughlin at running back. Maybe you need a big body guy. I don't know if this is posturing. I don't know if this is another slot hunt wide receiver that Sean's looking for. But this just feels a little suspect to me. We all know Sean really wants a running back. I'm not buying this wide receiver nonsense at 20.
Yeah, I think they should go for someone who could be a wide receiver one for the future, right? I think they've got enough other folks that they can spread around in different positions. But Cortland Sutton, like I said earlier, is not going to be around for very much longer, maybe a couple of years, regardless of whether they try to give him another year or not. But they need to plan for the future. And I don't know if Golden is that guy. I don't think he is, but I think they should go after somebody that's a more wide receiver one type from my perspective.
I do too. I want that classic X, right? Maybe it's just me being old school, but like, you need to find Cortland's replacement, just like you needed to find Demaryius Thomas's replacement, and you need to do it early. If you've learned nothing from the Russell Wilson thing, I know it's a quarterback issue. It doesn't necessarily apply blanketed across the league for every position, but if you can get out from underneath a guy that's starting to decline 1 to 2 years early, you need to do it, even if they're not declining significantly, even if it's not worth panicking, even if it's not a dramatic decline. You have to have a farm system, so to speak. And the Broncos haven't been farming that system, Tom. That's why we're talking about tight end. That's why we're talking about running back. That's why we're talking still about another big-bodied X at wide receiver. I like Devon Bailey. He's fine enough. Is he going to take over the game and be a game wrecker like a Brandon Marshall, a Demaryius Thomas? Yeah. As of late, a Cortland Sutton? I don't know. It doesn't seem to be his body type. Maybe he's going to get in the weight room and come out looking like DK Metcalf. I don't know. You have to eventually start farming some of these guys and picking their replacements. So I'm with you there. David coming in $2 over on YouTube. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke and Tom, what's up, David? Let us know what you would like to do in the draft. And guys, remember these super chats, whether they're on YouTube, Facebook stars, they absolutely help us keep the lights on. But your viewership, we really, really appreciate that. Time is the most valuable thing we have on this planet. So let us know, whether it's a super chat or not, who you want and why at pick 20. Will the Broncos even be at pick 20? Because I don't think they're going to be there. I think they're going to go up for whoever that guy is. And I think it's between a running back and a tight end. At least I hope it is. Let's hear from Broncos country from just a second. Phil McLaughlin weighing in over on Facebook. We got you tonight because Dylan has got Facebook up and running, Phil. So we appreciate you for hanging in there with us. You've been a huge supporter of the show for many years. Good evening, Thomas and Luke. You guys think T-Mac will be a choice at 20? Would you take him there? I don't think he's going to be there, Tom. This cat from Arizona is pretty damn good. In fact, I think he's the number one wide receiver on the board. Dallas has a thing for wide receivers. I could see them trying to go after him. I don't know that Sean wants to trade up for a wide receiver that he kind of likes. He would absolutely have to love this young man. What's not to love? 6'4", 220 pounds. You want to talk about taking a game over? This guy has that potential. I don't see him sitting there at 20. Too many teams can't help themselves. They've fallen in love with this Arizona Wildcat.
Yeah, and if he's the number one guy, there are going to probably be several teams that want to draft a wide receiver. So likely he's not going to slip. So, but if he's there, I've said it for a while, wide receiver still to me is a huge need. I know running back is a big need too, and I think that's what they're going to go for. But they have got to address the wide receiver position. I know Vele was good as a rookie, but he's 29, 30 years old already. I mean, the guy's about ready to retire.
He's on that. He's on that Utah college wide receiver plan. You know, like Garrett Bowler, where he's 1,000,000 years old. Timmy Pat's 1,000,000 years old. So yeah, there's a little something to it.
They need to start planning for the future. If they can't find, I mean, if they don't feel like there's an impact receiver for year one, they still got to plan for 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and the wide receiver group needs an upgrade big time. So if he's there, I would take him. But like you said, Luke, I doubt he's going to be there.
Well, let's just look at it real quick. And we're not the mock draft show, right? I know some people may love that. Some people may hate that. That's just not what we do, right? We get fired up and we try to get as many opinions as possible. And we try to make sense of it because all these mocks are going to go to hell here in a few weeks, right? So like it's crazy. It's sometimes fun, right? We all have friends and people that we lean on, and my favorite is to go back and try to see who is accurate, right? And who was talking to who, because it's not necessarily sometimes what do you grade the players as, it's what do the 32 teams in the NFL, how do they see these prospects coming out? So Phil, just real quick, going down the draft order, I mean, not to bail on your question, because you're a huge supporter of the show, I could absolutely see a world where the Jets maybe consider this guy at 7, right? They've got a disgruntled wide receiver that maybe wants it out of there, Garrett Wilson. It's going to be a running back heavy team, so maybe you allow a wide receiver to develop. You could see that. What are the Bears going to do at 10? They want another option for their Caleb Williams, right? Their grand plan at quarterback. I don't know. And then you've got Dallas sitting there at 12. I'm sure Miami would entertain the idea of a quarterback. I mean, or a wide receiver. There's so many wide receiver needy teams, but when you're the number one wide receiver, I think teams are going to go up. And the reason I say that is because Matthew Golden is also a projected first-round pick. Then you get into the Jaden Higgins of the world. Iowa State, a very good prospect, maybe an early or a late first, early second, depends on where it goes. My point is there's a drastic jump from the Ohio State kid, Egbuka, and this cat from Arizona, McMillan, is that how you say his name? T-Mac is what Phil called him. So what's the point? If there's that big a gap in wide receivers between first, second, and third rounders, other teams are going to reach and they're going to come up if they consider a guy just on the fringe or on the bubble. Remember, Tom, you bring it up all the time. That fifth-year option looks really intriguing when you're talking about rookie wide receivers, especially to multiple NFL teams that need them.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be like I've said this for a while. I think they need to address a wide receiver room. If they can in the first round, do it. I just don't think it's going to fall that way for them to have the guy that they like. I still think they're going to trade up to get a running back. That's my feeling on it. If the draft board falls in the right way so they can move up just enough to get that running back, because that's going to be your guy who really kind of fills out this offense right now for year one, for next year. That's going to fill out your offense. Yes, you have to plan for the future, but right now that running back room is the biggest weakness on the offense.
David's on board, just like you and I and the rest of Broncos country. Sean's offense is dependent on a running back. I will double down on that, Dave. It's dependent on 2 running backs in that famous joker position that we keep being talked about, right? You got to have a change of pace back, and you've got to have a workhorse. And Sean's got to be able to trust you. Now, how quickly can he trust one of these running backs? That's totally different. And I think that's going to be a little foreign for Sean Payton. It was a lot for Sean to ask, trusting a rookie wide receiver, a rookie quarterback, right? All these rookies that just came in and started playing right away. Well, maybe he's going to continue that trend. That happens with a running back like an Ashton Genty. If he's even in striking distance, it seems like this guy's stock continues to go up on a daily basis. I keep hearing the Raiders, Ashton Genty, right? The Raiders, they just love Ashton Genty. And then I think of Mark Davis, and I wonder if he's truly a chip off the old block. And what I mean by that is Al Davis never met like a defensive back he didn't like either in the NFL draft. And my good friend Charlie Campbell, I think, had put it out there, and I'm trying to pull it up over at Walter Football, that he had the Raiders going cornerback, I believe. And couldn't we see that? Couldn't we see the Raiders making a Raider move like that? And I don't know if Ashton Genty would necessarily be there, but Charlie also alluded to Omarion Hampton, the North Carolina kid, coming to the Broncos at 20. So I think the secret's out. Sean Payton needs a running back.
I don't think many teams are going to pass on Genty. He seems like one of those talents that you don't pass up on. And there's always the chance of injury. There's always a chance of being a bust. He just seems too much of a dynamic runner and has all the tools you want. I just don't see, if someone wants a running back or thinks they need a running back that can make an impact in year one, I don't see them passing up on him. Now they may, and he may fall because stranger things have happened, but it doesn't seem likely in my mind. And remember, the Raiders, they made Darren McFadden a very early pick all those years back too. So they're not afraid of taking a running back early.
No, well, and the reason I think my buddy Charlie Campbell had him going cornerback, and Charlie Campbell, one of the most accurate predictors, one of the most in the know business prospects, scout, whatever you want to call him, experts in this community, man. He's got his finger on the pulse on so many teams. He's saying, look, man, the Raiders still need a number one corner. It's been completely misprioritized. Their slot corner is Nate Hobbs. Is he going to leave? He had him going Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. And, man, I don't know if that's what that's going to look like. Charlie's pretty accurate, but if he's hearing that the Raiders are still interested in big positions of need, that's interesting to me. I think the Raiders bringing Geno Smith I'm still curious about that. I'm not worried, but I don't think quarterback is completely off the board in Las Vegas either. I could see them wanting to pull the trigger on a Shedeur Sanders. What about Jackson Dart? I mean, do they want to go after him? The Raiders need a quarterback, maybe a quarterback in waiting. Al Davis's son, Mark Davis, needs to figure out a way to sell tickets to get Raiders fans to continue to show up. The best way to do it, and we know it, Broncos country very well, you draft a first-round quarterback. If that's Shedeur Sanders, if that's Jackson Dart, man, then I'm keeping an eye on the Raiders just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with that in the AFC West with Pete Carroll and in the way he likes defense, building that defense. He also likes strong running game. They can go on many different routes. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how this particular draft falls, because there are a few players who, if they do drop, I think people are going to start trading up to get them.
Yeah, who comes to mind?
Well, Genty for one. If he starts to fall, someone's going to jump up and get him. He's just got a talent like that.
So if he makes it, if he perhaps makes it past 5 or 6, you're thinking teams are like, okay, we got to go get maybe the Broncos. Got to go get him.
That's a bit rich for the Broncos to jump up that far, but. I mean, Genty, if you think that like Shedeur Sanders starts to drop a little bit, people are going to be trading up to get a quarterback. I mean, there's a few players probably in there that once they start to drop, just based on how it goes. So, I mean, even like, think about it. If folks start to go quarterback early and they get Shedeur early, Abdul Carter, that's like the number one guy. If he drops to 4, someone's going to trade up to go get him too. So, there's a few moves that can be made, and I'm hoping that some of these, quarterback needy teams are getting aggressive to go up and get those quarterbacks, which is going to push a talented player down to the Broncos.
It's so fun to see the contrast in people's opinions, whether they're experts, whether they're knuckleheaded like us, right? And whether they're members of Broncos country. Adam, I wanted to weigh in on this. You got to trade up for Ashton Genty. Hard pass on trading up for any other running back. Then you look at David, opposite side of that. Listen, there are too many good running backs in this draft. Further in that point, to give up 2 first and second rounds to move up, man. Like, this is deep, and Broncos country knows that. And yeah, we're talking about Ashton Genty, but the Omarion Hamptons of the world, the 2 Ohio State kids, Henderson and Judkins. Cecil came on, Cecil Lammy, a good friend of the show, came on during the scouting combine and loved both of those guys out of Ohio State. And was like, look, man, maybe you can pick one or not both of these guys up, but maybe you could have a steal, so to speak, if one of those guys falls the way it should, whether that's in round 1 or round 2. You still have the Iowa kid who was just in Denver last week, right? I think during our show, Caleb Johnson, projected second-round pick, 6'1", 224 pounds. So you're right, Broncos country. There are some running backs out there. God dang it. I just want to know what the Broncos board looks like. I want to know how they have these guys graded, because the nice thing about it too, and I don't live in Gaga land, right? I know Travis Hunter's not going to be there for the Broncos, but they do their homework on that guy. And speaking of that, I've been saving this for the show all week. I haven't texted you about it, haven't popped off on X too much about it. But did you see the CU Pro Day and Prime getting after a Broncos scout with regards to the 40-yard dash and how these guys were starting? Did you see that video over on
I missed
social
that.
media?
I
Oh,
totally missed it. No, I didn't
dude.
see it.
Yeah, you go check it out in Broncos
Okay.
country. I don't know if you've seen it, but head on over to X, just type Coach Prime and 40-yard dash. And you could see a scout setting up for the CU Pro Day, and he's trying to get these young college prospects ready for the 40-yard dash. And he's exemplifying, if you will, how he wants them to line up. Coach Prime sees him doing it and is like, that's all bull jive. You do whatever the bleep you want, like, don't listen to this man. That's bull jive. You do how you've been training. And I watched the video a few times, and a lot of people were upset about it, and I'm trying to figure out why it's a big deal. Well, then it becomes a big deal to me because then I look at the guy's shirt. He's got a Broncos pullover, Tom. I mean, I'm like, damn, Coach Prime going after Broncos scout a little bit. I know he was just dabbing it up with Sean Payton recently, same day. Kind of interesting, man, because the Broncos are still doing their homework, and they're still looking at CU buffs. Now, the Broncos weren't there for Travis. They weren't there for Shador. I'm wondering who they were there for. Are they looking at a wide receiver like a Jimmy Horn Jr. type, or an under the radar prospect? It's just interesting, man, because the Broncos don't have to be there. They don't have to be up there in Boulder, but they recognize, and I think Sean Payton recognizes, that talent can come from anywhere. And that's something George has missed on a little bit. And that's where I have an axe to grind with George Payton. He has let a lot of local talent get out of here. And I'm not talking about Josh Allen, because we know that was John Elway, but you've had a lot of Wyoming Cowboys, right? You've had a lot of Wyoming Cowboys coming into the league at the linebacker, the safety positions. And correct me if I'm wrong, those are positions of need for the Denver Broncos of the last few years. And I'm talking second, third round picks. Hell, Logan Wilson. They can't all be Logan Wilsons for Cincinnati. I get it. It's nice to see that the Broncos are doing their homework, that they are at Fort Collins for Colorado State's Pro Day, that they are up there in Boulder looking at these young prospects, that they're going to the University of Wyoming in Laramie. I mean, that they have to scour the earth to find the next Broncos starters, Tom, because they need it. They're ready to compete.
Yeah, well, and since they're only a few minutes up the road, why not? Like, why aren't they there? It's interesting that they, that they haven't been able to scout those players and get them. I'm sure they are, but they're not out in force like they were in the Colorado's.
Yeah, exactly. Champ was there too. Champ Bailey was there this last weekend too. So that was pretty cool. Former Bronco, right? Pro Football Hall of Famer. One of the best trades that could have ever happened in Broncos history.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know where you rank that, Tom. But Champ's son committed to CU, and shocker, he's a cornerback wide receiver. So my good buddy Ben Armendariz, go check out his article. He's part of the SI family. He's covering the Buffs now, and he just wrote up an article. Is Champ Bailey coming to Boulder to coach with Prime? Go check it out over at the Buffs coverage. Pretty fun stuff, man. But
that'd be interesting. I would like to see what Champ Bailey has to offer as a coach. He
hell yeah.
I mean, he flawless technique. So it would be great to see how he can translate that to the young players and wherever he decides to do it.
We're so spoiled here in Broncos country with the damn cornerbacks. I'm so tickled about it, Tom, and I'm still taking victory laps on Pastor Tan, man, because they are truly generational, and they don't come around but once every 25 years or so. Then it seems like you can get one that falls into your lap like a Champ Bailey or a Pat Surtain, and it's nice that we don't have to have those conversations in the first round, right? Like the Raiders. Who are we going to get to cover anybody? We know the answer to that. And it doesn't mean that the Broncos can't get better, which is why yesterday, Tom, the Broncos signed former Carolina Panthers safety Sam Franklin Jr. It was a deal worth up to $1.5 million in the 2025 calendar year. He was an undrafted cat out of Temple in 2020. Appeared in 74 games in 5 seasons with Carolina. Now he's mainly a special teams ace, Tom, as you were explaining to me early on. He had over 2,100 snaps on special teams versus 1,300 on defense. What's the expectation for the Broncos' new safety? Keep in mind, the second new safety to come to Denver behind Hufanga from the 49ers.
Well, one, it's to upgrade the special teams, no doubt. I mean, they're definitely focusing on. They've been focusing on the special teams since Sean Payton stepped into the building. But it also, to me, in my mind, it puts a couple other safeties on notice. You got PJ Locke, who was the starter last year. They weren't happy with. He moved down the draft or down the depth chart with the signing of Hufanga, and then now you've got another safety who's a special teams ace, competing for backup time, and JL Skinner, the guy that I've been saying, why aren't you, getting more snaps on defense? Where is this guy? He was supposedly fell too far down the draft board. There's another one that's should be sweating a little bit when it comes to this signing.
I think just the opposite. And JL Skinner, I think it signals JL Skinner about to get going here. And is Delarian Turner-Yell on this football team still? Is he still floating around?
Yeah, I believe he is. Yep.
He's your other guy who's packing his bags today, right now. Yeah. That's him. PJ's not quite packing his bags, but he's starting to think about moving companies. It's JL Skinner, man. He needs to get going or he needs to get gone. You're exactly right. I got to see this cat down at the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago, and Boise State, right? Talking about Ashton Genty, if memory serves, Boise State Bronco. JL Skinner. Yeah, he needs to get going, man, because he definitely has a cat here who's willing to do it. JL Skinner's still on the rookie contract, so I'm curious what Vance Joseph's opinion is of that, right? Secondary guy, secondary master. Where does he see JL Skinner? I don't know, man. It's nice to see that the Broncos are prioritizing the special teams unit. What's going on with kicker? I feel like I'm still asking that every single week. Do the Broncos have a kicker? Like, I feel like this is something we're all glossing over. I know what they signed a right-handed and a left-footed punter or whatever, something we're always talking about, but I don't know what the hell this team's going to do. Will Lutz, right? He's not here anymore. So who the hell is going to be kicking and scoring all those field goals?
I thought Will Lutz was still under contract.
Is he here?
I thought he was. Yeah.
Did I dream this up, a nightmare scenario? Am I talking out my what? Because I thought
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I thought he was still under contract. But I do think that they weren't happy with him, and I thought they would be bringing in somebody to at least challenge him.
Yeah, he's current. You're right. 2023 to present. So all right, crisis avert. Was it the punter? Who was it?
Yeah, the punter. Yeah, Dixon.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't re-sign Dixon.
That's what it was. Okay, because I felt like for a few weeks there we were without one of the special teams guys, and the punter.
Yeah,
okay.
It was Dixon. Yeah, and then they brought in that left-footed guy, just like you called it, left-footed guy.
Left-footed. Sean loves it, right? Different spin on the ball, and he wants to screw all these young returners up. David Yonkin, man, appreciate it. In the 13 drafts, Sean Payton has had 22 draft day trades. None were a trade back. I assume that just applies to the first round,
right,
David? Because
he's traded back later, but first round,
Yeah, Sean loves the wheel and deal, and so does George, man. And I think this is where George has leaned on the most, not necessarily in the first round grading, but George has a good idea of what other teams are looking for. He has a good temperature of the league. I think he's really tried to right some wrongs of the Russell Wilson deal. And what I mean by that is try to have a better understanding of what other teams are doing. Try to have a different outside philosophy, if you will, of looking in on Denver and their war draft plans, if you will. Yeah, man, Sean's going up. He's not trading back in the end of the first. Yeah. I'm telling you, that's not who this man is. That's who George Payton is. That's who Vance Joseph is. Hell, I could eat John Elway, right? But that is not Sean. He is not a patient man. He is trading up. And if Ashton Genty goes at 6, you could see a run on running backs right away, similar to the wide receivers, right? You could see Hampton go, Henderson go, then what? Judkins? Are you hovering around 20, or is there just big run on running backs? It's going to be interesting, man.
Yeah, and the reason why I don't think he's going to trade back is because they're not rebuilding anymore. If they were still rebuilding, if their season wasn't quite as good as they wanted, and they knew they needed a few more pieces, and they still do. They still need a few more pieces, but what they really need is one impact player. I'm not saying pull a Mike Ditka and trade everything for a running back. What I'm saying is don't trade back to accumulate more picks when you really need to go get that player that's going to spark that offense and really put it into that next upper echelon of offenses like the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's what they need. If they were at, say they had an 8-9 season again, and they're like still need some pieces, I could see them trading back. But they were in the playoffs, they got outmatched. Their offense isn't quite good enough. They need an impact player. I think that's why they're not going to trade back. I think they're going to be aggressive, get that player that brings that offense over the top, and just stick with what they have, as they go down the second and third round. Maybe do some wheeling dealing back then, but go get the guy that you want to put this team over the top.
Shiloh coming in. Shiloh Heesh, $2 over on YouTube. What's up, Shiloh? Appreciate the support, man. Ironically, Shiloh doesn't want Shiloh Sanders as a Bronco, huh? Yeah, man. Shiloh Sanders, man. I assume you're alluding to Shiloh Sanders, talking about CU and everything that is the Rocky Mountain Mile High region. Yeah, man. I don't know. I liked Shiloh for a little while there, and then, man, I have a bad taste in my mouth with Shiloh. I think he takes some cheap shots, if I'm being honest. When you go back and you look at some of these games with the Buffs, I think he is athletic. I think he has some talent. I think it's going to be very hard for Shiloh Sanders to have an NFL career. Shador has some similar issues when it comes to ego, right? And being a Sanders, if you will, but that comes with the territory, man. Shiloh Sanders, I don't know what his NFL career is going to hold, Shiloh, but I am with you. I do not want him with the Broncos. Having the news of former Carolina Panthers safety Sam Franklin Jr. coming over, having Hufunga come over. You already have guys like PJ Locke, Delarian Turner-Yell, JL Skinner. That safety room, the DB room, it's getting pretty full in Denver. So I don't think we got to worry about Shiloh Sanders with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Although maybe he works out for him. I don't know. Maybe that's why Sean was there. Sean didn't want to disrespect Coach Prime, right? Coach Prime is very complimentary of Sean Payton. He gets asked about some of Sean's moves, and Coach doesn't just say bull jive, to quote bull jive, right? He will say what he thinks, and I think there's a good respect there between Coach Prime and Coach Payton. Maybe that was part of it. Hey, we're going to come up there and we're going to support you. We're going to support your sons and show up for the Buffs. I don't know.
Yeah. I think they need some depth at cornerback in the DB room. I think their safeties room is full, but I would like to see someone brought in to challenge some of these depth players at cornerback, because I like Chris Abrams-Drain, but he's still learning. Bring someone in to challenge him. Once Riley Moss went down, there was some definitely problems in that cornerback room after the three big names there, McMillan, Surtain, and Moss. They could stand for some upgrades. Not that Shiloh's the DB that they need to go out and get. I'm just saying I think cornerback is a need, not right away, but they should be drafting somebody in maybe in the third round.
That's interesting. Maybe you get some undrafted guys. Maybe he gets a look with the Broncos as an undrafted guy, come work out. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, man. And the Broncos are still, it feels like they're trying to complete the transition at the safeties position, because when you get rid of Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons, I think at the same time, right? It was within the same offseason. It was a literal changing of the guard. Some worked, some didn't. You can always upgrade from a PJ Locke, but they want that transition to full circle close. They want the free safety and the strong safety to be there. You got an absolute dog in Brandon Jones, man. I didn't know how good and under the radar, and I was dismissive of Brandon Jones, right? He was a huge impact player for Vance Joseph's defense, and with a Brandon Jones and a Hufunga defensive backfield with Vance Joseph, all right, I'm interested. You got that bully Dre Greenlaw in the middle of the field. I can't wait. I am most excited about Dre Greenlaw, man. Like, if Ashton Jeanty got here, great. Omarion Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, great. I can't wait to see a pissed off, physical bully at the linebacker position. Yep. We got to keep him healthy, Tom, but that's Dre Greenlaw, and I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
Yeah, me too. That's what's been missing from the Broncos is that I mean, not that the defense was good and aggressive, but they don't have that guy in the linebacker or secondary that was really out to lay down the law, so to speak. And they've missed that for a while. The Broncos have had it in the past. They've had those dogs, so to speak, and it has definitely been missing. So I'm expecting Dre Greenlaw to bring a little bit of that attitude to the Broncos defense.
They're totally different players, so don't shred me yet. And Broncos, totally different players, totally different eras, totally different responsibilities. Why do I get the feeling from Dre Greenlaw that I'm getting Al Smoke Dog Wilson attitude vibes, right? Of not laying down the law. I'm here to break the law. Greenlaw, baby. And who's going to stop it? Because that's exactly it, man. Vance Joseph, nicest guy in the world. You need to have someone who's a bit of a jerk. You need to have a Dennis Rodman who's willing to start a fight. You need to have a guy who's willing to finish the fight, like a Shaquille O'Neal, right? Like, you need some of that. And the Broncos have been missing it. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get some of that in their coaching staff, because Dylan's in my ear, and I didn't even realize this. He's like, hey, man, another big story you should keep an eye on today. Broncos head coach Sean Payton, he's working to hire Teron Armstead to the Broncos coaching staff. So you could read about this over at milehighhuddle.com. Zach Kelberman's got an article up right now. And apparently the Denver Broncos are trying to court one of Sean Payton's former standouts with the New Orleans Saints, offensive tackle Teron Armstead. His capacity, whether or not he'll be with the Broncos, remains up in the air. Apparently he was on Up and Adams, and that's where all this is coming from. Yeah, you're telling me this Broncos offensive line can improve with a Sean Payton guy on the offense? You bet. Sign me up. Bring him in. Like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber, right? Pick him up. It's just one of these things, man, where like we need to get better in so many different areas. Dude, Dylan, that absolutely I'm on board for that, man. That's a huge story. What do you think, Tom? Former New Orleans Saint great Teron Armstead to the Denver Broncos coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, why not? The guy's a heck of a player, and he seems like he could be a pretty solid coach. You've already, he already brought in Zach Strief. That they're going to have a similar, they're probably going to have a similar style, a similar methodology, both playing in the Saints offensive line. So I don't think it would be a contradiction to bring him in, let him learn a little bit. And Zach Strief's probably not going to be around forever. From how he has been coaching. I mean, he's going to get a shot. So bring a coach in to kind of develop behind him. Why not? If he's willing to do it, I'm on board. That's
a really good point about Strief, because I just got done screaming about the Broncos not developing players. Well, you need to be developing coaches too, Tom. That's a really good point. I mean, what is the future hold for Webb? Right? Quarterback whisperer, QB coach. I mean, pretty soon you're going to start getting interviews for offensive play caller. Who do you have as a quality assistant behind him? Like who's the next up and comer? Because that Trevor Siemian can't always be on the roster. You want those assistant coaches coming up from the coaching staff.
That's right.
That's definitely an interesting tidbit there. Let's get to some friends of the show across the pond. Good afternoon, Luke and Tom. What is up? Ralph Bracegirdle, our friend over on Facebook. I'm vacationing in Georgia, enjoying the warmer weather. Nice. Had to tune in tonight, man. Welcome to dog country. I got some good friends out there, man. Scott's one of them, right? You're missing him. He's scuba diving right now. That's why the lovely Dylan Von Arx has graced us with his presence. But no, man, welcome to from across the pond, man, to Broncos country, to Georgia. I hope you have a fantastic vacation. Go fishing, have a cold pop, enjoy time with friends and family, and welcome to the States, baby. Happy to have you, Ralph.
Yeah, thanks, Ralph, for being here. I hope you're enjoying your vacation, man. I'm ready for summer. It's still cold where I'm at. It kind of teased a little bit of warm weather and then went back to cold. So I wish I was there with you, having fun in Georgia, man.
Georgia's been a huge topic tonight, Ralph. We've been talking about Champ Bailey, right? Former Georgia Bulldog. I think Champ still lives in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. His son committed to the CU Buffs, wide receiver corner. So, and those Georgia dogs, man. My good buddy Alan, his daughter plays volleyball with my daughter, and we talk every week about the draft. Huge Georgia fan. I'm just like, dude, those defensive linemen with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? The linebackers, like all the defenders that come out of Georgia must be nice, to just continually put out absolute dogs who are dogs at the defensive position. So, Ralph, we really appreciate the support, man. Have a blessed rest of your trip and continue to root for your Denver Broncos. Phil circling it back around. Guys, I'm seeing some trade rumors about the Jets and Breece Hall. If the Broncos could get Breece Hall for a 4th-round pick, would you take him? Absolutely, Phil. You bet. I'd pick him up at the airport. Interesting. This is something, Phil, I'm glad you brought this up because we're not touching it right now. We're too excited with the paper tigers of mock drafts. Sean Payton likes to wheel and deal during the draft.
Yep.
Could the Broncos acquire a former 1st-round running back who's currently in the league? I mean, Tom, we haven't even discussed that option. Who says that's off the table?
Yeah, it's not. And if it's a 4th-rounder for Breece Hall, that's a steal. Absolutely. I mean, we know what Breece Hall can do. 4th round for him would be a no-brainer. I would do it in a heartbeat.
Man, yeah. If the Jets want to just be sellers, I don't think they would do that, though, because didn't their new coach, was it Glenn? Didn't he just come out and say that he wants the Jets to be a 2-headed monster at the running back position and they're going to run the football and all this crap, right? And it's like translation, Justin Fields is an option quarterback and we're going to run the option. Great. Never saw that one coming. Or we're going to run the spread offense. That spread offense, by the way, I think that is also getting Shedeur Sanders in a little bit of trouble, right? And Pat Shurmur, I mean, gosh dang it, Coach Prime, what are you doing? Why did you have to hire Coach freaking Shurmur? We could have told you how that was going to end up. I mean, CU's done okay, but that spread offense is absolutely nasty for quarterbacks during evaluations in college if they don't have bona fide wide receivers, right? And Travis can only play so much on one side, and Jimmy Horn Jr., very good player in his own right. Forgetting the other cat, the long hair, the dreads, he's awesome too. But it's just, I don't know, sometimes a detriment to a young quarterback. So I don't know where I'm going with that. Shedeur Sanders, he lives in my head rent-free. The guy's legendary.
Well,
just asking.
I think where you're going with it is going back to Breece Hall and wondering why they'd want to trade him. Well, probably because they know they're not a very good football team, and they need to start picking up some draft picks. I mean, obviously,
you guys suck.
They've got holes on that team. They tried to patch it. They tried to bring in Aaron Rodgers to get them over the top, and they still weren't very good. Not that Aaron Rodgers had much left in the tank, but I mean, when you're not a good team, you got to start thinking about, okay, how can we pick up some draft picks? Breece Hall's, running back's a short-lived position. Maybe we get something for him now. He can go play for get a couple good years somewhere else, and we get a 3rd or 4th rounder for him, and try and pick up some players to fill in this roster. Yeah,
maybe Phil, maybe we should get you on the horn. I mean, start working the phones and tell New York, like you tease them a little bit first, right? Now, I'm sure. Look at what's happening in our world right now. Everybody's a business expert, right? And a financial expert, and no one really knows how to close deals, right? So there's negotiations. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Sometimes you overoffer, sometimes you underoffer. But what if you were the Broncos and you dangled it out there? And you're like, 2 months ago, it's February, you hear these reports, Chiefs just won, you're like, we're going to get some feelers out there one way or the other. We're not going to break any rules, right? Because we wouldn't do that. Sean wouldn't do that. He doesn't break any NFL rules ever. Somehow you get the feelers out there to New York. We would entertain a 2nd rounder for Breece Hall. That's in February. Then March rolls around and we're like, man, Woody, things aren't going so well these days in your market. And maybe that 3rd rounder that you wanted or 2nd rounder, we're thinking more of a 3rd. And Woody gets upset, but he's like, okay, fine. The Broncos are thinking a 3rd. Well, the draft comes around and Phil McLaughlin comes in and he's like, the Broncos said, we're going to give you a 4th. That 3rd is turned into a 4th. Sign me up, Phil, because I could definitely see Sean trying to get over on somebody. George Payton try to get over on somebody. Tom, it wouldn't be the first time an NFL team tried to pull a fast one on the Denver Broncos or in the NFL draft.
Well, they got to do something at running back. They have to. Breece Hall's available. Great. If not, go find your guy in the draft. And here's the question, though. Now, we were talking about players slipping. So if Genty is at 12 all of a sudden, he slips to 12. How much is Sean Payton going, we need to start thinking about trading up to go get this guy?
Let me ask you a question. A question with that. Okay, so let's say Genty's at 12 still. In that scenario, Tom, and I know these are imperfect scenarios, but we got to talk about them because that could happen. And don't forget about Terrell Davis. Yeah, man, one of the original Georgia dogs. Yeah, how could I, Ralph? What the hell's the matter with me? Okay, Tom. Ashton Genty's there at 12. Is Omarion Hampton still there at 12, or was he picked earlier?
No, he'd still be there. He's
Okay,
still
so
there too. He's
no
still
running
available. You got
No
both
running
running
backs
backs.
off the
Yeah,
board.
they have both slipped, and you know that you got Genty. You know he's a world class talent. And what do you do there? Do you just say, you know what, we're going to stand pat, or are we
Yes.
going up? Because really, to move from 20 to 12, that's going to take a chunk. It's not
Yeah.
going to be huge. It's not going to, you don't sacrifice 2, 3 first round draft choices or anything, but it's going to hurt to move up to 12. But I mean, that's when Sean Payton's going to start to get a little bit antsy. He starts to fall to that spot.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, if no running backs have been taken at 12, I think Sean stays put. I think Sean, unless things dramatically change at 13 or 14. I mean, a ton can change, right? From 12 to 20. So that's an interesting scenario. I don't think it's going to happen. Why don't I think that's going to happen? Because everyone wants Saquon Barkley. That's why. Everyone's in the search for it's the copycat league. Some owner, some GM, some coach is going to swear to God that he found the next Saquon Barkley, and whether or not that player is him, we won't know for another 3-4 years, or hell, how long has Saquon been in the league before he found the success that he's had with Philly? Yeah. I mean, he's been a good player. He took off. He was a dynamic player, one of the best, if not the best in the entire league. So that's an interesting scenario. The Broncos have to be preparing for it. Man, I like Genty. I like Hampton. They need a running back. I would be disappointed if it was tight end, Tom. I know we talk about Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, but the reason tight end I say I'd be disappointed is because you addressed that with Evan Ingram, right? And speaking of tight ends, guys, on Monday, the Broncos did sign exclusive rights free agent tight end Lucas Kroll. Remember, the team applied the exclusive rights free agent tender, if you will, around March 4th. That exclusive rights free agent tag or tender, whatever the hell you want to call it, just 2 or fewer seasons. That's the biggest difference between restricted, unrestricted, and the exclusive rights. I don't see tight end in the first round. Why? Because you have Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, and Lucas Kroll. What? We're going to get another first round tight end, and you're going to have 12 personnel all the time? I thought you loved all the wide receivers. I mean, which way are you going to go? It has to be running back. What would you say if it was a tight end? What would you say if it was a Colston Loveland at 20? Would you be happy? Would you be nah? Or how would you feel, Tom?
So for me, I think Colston Loveland is a great talent. I think I would be happy that they picked a dynamic talent. What would make me unhappy is that if you look at the numbers, if you go back and you look at all these drafts, tight end can be found in the third round, and their probability of success in the NFL is very close to picking one up in the first round. So if you have a couple needs, you have running back, you have tight end, you have wide receiver, and you pick a tight end, that means that your second and third round picks are less likely to hit for positional value, as opposed to flipping that and you take a running back, wide receiver, then tight end. That's why it would bother me a little bit, but I do like Colston Loveland, and I don't care about people like, oh, you got Evan Ingram, he's you need an inline guy and all that stuff. Evan Ingram's not going to be around much for very long. He's getting older. You need to plan for the future as well. But that's my reasoning for it. I think third round is a great spot to find a tight end that's going to be able to do what you need. Obviously there's some that don't pan out. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all the third round tight ends pan out, right. But if you look at the numbers, it's about as likely as a first rounder to pan out in the NFL when you look at the positional value, not the actual player themselves.
Yeah, I lean on you and the value in the analytics with that, because my eye test seems to match that. And I could remember seeing Noah Gray from Duke out there at a Senior Bowl, the same Senior Bowl JL Skinner, if memory serves, or no, it was earlier. It was the Baron Browning, Quinn Miners, Jonathan Cooper Senior Bowl. And it was just it's so obvious that this young man is going to be a good player. Wasn't a first round pick, right? And I think second, third rounder, maybe. So to your point, I think you could find those guys. I just think I hate to call it an embarrassment of riches if the tight end position selected for the Broncos, because you don't know what Evan Ingram's going to look like in this offense. So that's why I hate to say that, but it feels irresponsible to me. How about that? It feels reckless. And Sean's never been described as irresponsible or reckless, right? He would never make a move like that. It signals running back unless the Broncos are trying to think 2 steps ahead. What if they think, man, what if we could steal this guy here at 20 and potentially come back in to the first round, right? What's it look like at the end, or trade up early in the second? It's going to be interesting. And Money Moore coming in, man. Genty even falling to 12 is a stretch. The whole damn draft is a stretch, Money, which is why we have to prepare for some of the craziest scenarios. And when I say we, Tom and I like to discuss and have these debates with Broncos country, but it's George Paton and Sean Payton's job to prepare for these scenarios. And if you don't prepare for them, it's pretty damn obvious when it's your turn to pick and you're on the clock. That's when you see panic moves. That's when you see infrastructure within team war rooms completely crumble. That's when you see meddlesome owners take over. I don't expect that from the Denver Broncos because they haven't shown such in the last few seasons. I hope to hell they're preparing, Tom.
And you never know what's going to happen. I mean, look at the gas mask incident not too long ago. Laramie Tunsil, right before the draft, that comes out, and that freaked up the whole draft. I mean, with him shooting down the board, they that changed teams' philosophies on Tunsil. Now, they should have drafted him anyway because he turned out to be a pretty dang good offensive tackle. But things like that happen. You never know. So be prepared for it. And if Genty does, for some reason, somebody, trades up to get Jackson Dart or something and it pushes him down the draft board, they better be ready to they better have that scenario in their mind of what they're going to do, because there's going to be a bunch of teams calling up going, hey, what are you going to take for that 12 spot?
Yeah, that's really interesting to think of, man. Like, it's the what if scenarios, and the what if scenarios happen in life all the time. What if Ashton Genty is at his family member's house and decides to shoot hoops and twist his ankle when he's shooting hoops? Does that change where Ashton Genty may be picked? Maybe. I'm not suggesting that it should. I'm not suggesting that it shouldn't. I'm just saying, like you, Tom, crazy stories are going to come out, but then crazy things in life sometimes happen too. I'm not wishing injuries, knock on wood. I hope everybody's healthy. None of that happens, but arrests change the game too. We see that all the time, right? I think about, what was it, Jalen Carter in that DUI from, speaking of Georgia, it's the Georgia Bulldog show, folks.
Yep.
Like, you hear about these issues. There will be somebody that goes through Twitter and pulls up a name that somebody called someone else with hopes, probably an agent, that forces some guy down or some guy up or whatever. These silly little games happen all the time, not to go Vic Fangio on everybody. But it is the NFL draft, and there's something to it, and there's a lot of gamesmanship, and that's the reason why we asked the question tonight: is Mike Kliss's report accurate? Is there some smoke there? Remember, Mike Kliss said about 10 hours ago over on X, besides running back, the Broncos must be considering wide receivers for their number 20 pick. They're scheduled to meet with speedy Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden today in Denver for a top 30 visit. Golden has been making the rounds. Remember, Golden's the little fella, 5'11", 190 pounds, out of Texas, speed demon, 2 years at Houston, and then went over to Texas last year. He's the presumed number 2 wide receiver in this draft. It's running back for me. I'm not buying it at all. That's not to say that the Broncos won't go after some other guys like Dylan. Just for transparency, Dylan Von Ark's been rocking with us on the ones and twos. We really, really appreciate him. He said other notable visits: Matthew Golden, Luther Burden. I know that's Chad Jensen's guy. He's very, very high on Luther Burden. He's a nice physical prospect as well as Efton Chisholm from Eastern Washington and Brian Green out of Wisconsin. So I'm not buying wide receiver in the first round. I'm definitely buying it in rounds 2 and later.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is one of those drafts that I'm intrigued to understand, because for a while we kind of knew what the Broncos had up their sleeve. We kind of knew what John Elway was about. We figured, it was when they had a first rounder and they were able to take Surtain. People kind of, there was a little bit of, what should it be, Justin Fields? But no, this one is wide open. It could be go anyway. There could be he could trade up and get someone he likes to stand pat and be somebody we're not even expecting. We don't really know at this point. All we know is it's not going to be a quarterback, and that's what I'm happy about.
No, I mean, it can't be an edge. It can't be a safety. I mean, an offensive tackle, I don't know. I don't see like a Will Campbell from LSU there or anything like that. It's going to be tough. Ralph weighing in on the way out. I can remember Noah Fant, and I remember Vernon Davis springing CJ for a touchdown in the Super. That's right, Vernon Davis. Now, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time, Tom. Vernon Davis, man. Remember when he was coming out of Maryland? He was like the next coming of the tight end. It was the tight end of the future was like designed in the Vernon Davis mold. At least he looked like he came right out of Madden, the create your player back in the day, the Maryland Terps. And he was one of the biggest Under Armour spokesmen, or I think during that time. And I remember it because I was in high school, man. I remember watching Vernon Davis. It was like, holy cow. Little did I know Vernon Davis would later become a Super Bowl champion with your Super Bowl 50.
He ran like a 4.39 or something too. He was like
freak.
Yeah, freak athlete. But yeah, it took him a little while. I mean, he stuck around for a long time, but he's not a Hall of Famer by any means. But yeah, he stuck around and played some pretty decent ball.
Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Would you take Latu or Ferguson on day 3? Yeah, absolutely. Listen, so many times, and Phil, I love it. I'm not talking about you. A lot of folks check out on rounds 2 through 3, and even more groups check out of 2 through 7. I loved when Schlereth was around, right? And there used to be like 20 rounds in the draft and stuff like that in the early 90s, right? The rounds 2 through 20. Yeah, those are the premier rounds of the draft, picks 1 through 3. A third round pick is nothing to snuff at, folks. So these Broncos coaches, these talent evaluators, they need to be doing their due diligence here. So we're talking about the third round tight end or defensive tackle or offensive lineman from wherever in the season. Man, we didn't see that coming. We got to give George Payton his flowers, just like I'm doing with the free agents, right? Talking about a Brandon Jones, a Jonathan Franklin Myers. I didn't see Devon Vele coming out of there last year. Did you, Tom? I mean, those are pleasant surprises. So absolutely, Phil. I am here for all of the pleasant surprises and none of the nightmares. We need the Broncos to step it up. The Nuggets are coachless. I don't know what's going on with the Rockies other than their ass every single year, so I'm not too worried about them. The Broncos, you're not our only hope. We're going to get behind the Nuggets. We're going to rally with them in the playoffs. Colorado Avalanche, they have nothing to worry about. One of the best hockey teams in the league, I am told. So yeah, we got to get this right here in Broncos country. We got to get the Broncos back on top. I'm super pumped for all of our Colorado sports teams, but life is just a little bit sweeter when the Broncos are number 1.
Yeah, and it's a long time coming. So they need to turn this thing from a 10-win season into something a little bit more special. And I think this draft holds a key to that in that first round. They need to get somebody that does put them over the top. And it doesn't have, obviously it's not just one guy that's going to make the difference, when it's you got 22 starters out there, but one guy can definitely give you that little extra that turns into a 12-win team instead of a 10-win team. And you get a home game in the playoffs and you might be able to make some noise. So one guy can make a bit of a difference.
Yeah, just ask Bo Nix, right? Who saw that coming? Guys, we really appreciate all of the support. Huge thank you and tip of the cap to Dylan Von Arx, who's been filling in for tons of shows. He's been working hard, works like a dog. He's one of our good personal friends. Follow Dylan at Dylan Von Arx, MHH, over on X. Remember, Dylan is one half of OBV. That's Orange and Blue View. Every Saturday night at 6 p.m. Mountain, you can catch Dylan and Ron White up to no good, taking you through Broncos prime time on the weekend, if you will. It's a very special Saturday night slot, near and dear to our hearts on this show, and we really appreciate Dylan. If you'd like to reach out to Dylan, please do on X at Dylan Von Arx MHH. If you'd like to talk to Tom, that's at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. We need to boost our pod numbers, Tom. We got to get it up at MHI_pod over on X. Got to get those numbers up, that is, for all you pod listeners and you Ornery Broncos country folks. Really, really appreciate you guys. You've been awesome. Another fun show in the books, boys, as we march on to the NFL draft.
Yeah, it's only a couple weeks away. So what we got one more show and then the draft. Two more shows and then the draft. But I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while since I have that I've been able to just kind of sit back and just kind of enjoy the draft getting here instead of being like super worried about it and doing mock drafts on my own and like looking at, what are we going to do? What's this? Who's this guy? It's nice just to take a break and just kind of let it unfold and just see how it all goes on Thursday night. I'm excited for it.
I'm right there with you, man. The Broncos are about to raise some hell in the NFL draft, and I can't wait. Remember to subscribe, like, and share on all platforms. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Head on over to the mothership as well, at Mile High Huddle. Check out our latest Chad Jensen, Zach Kelberman, Eric Trickle, Dylan Von Arks, Nick Kendall. Anyone and everyone are writing right now. We really appreciate all your support. Broncos country to the NFL draft. This is the way.
This is the way.